Hello, my dear audience. Thank you for your comments. I received several requests to produce more videos, specifically more videos on violin technique. And here's my request to you. I would like you to post in the comments to this video your specific topics that you would like me to cover. Specific challenges, and so on. I also would like to answer several questions that came with the videos or to my personal website. And I will start with the one relating to the Russian School of Violin. It's a very broad topic, and since it was a written comment, I'm not exactly sure what the asker was meaning to find out, whether it was about the so-called Old Russian violin school or more modern Russian, which would be the last 100 years, or it was more of the Russian methodology approach to the learning of pieces, more of the way of playing, and so on. So there are many different interpretations that one can put into the words violin school. From one standpoint, Russian violin school is really based on Paris Conservatory approach, and a lot of Russian schooling was actually Franco-Belgian inspired by Franco-Belgian school. We had a few great Franco-Belgians teaching in Russia, here and there, and different ages, different times. And that basically shaped most of the Russian playing that everybody refers to, for instance, Oistrakh, and therefore Kogan and Tretiakov and so forth. All of the great people of late, violinists of Russia, were more or less Franco-Belgian. Now, Leopold Auer was a different story, but again, I wouldn't call his as a crucial Russian school. He was a wonderfully influential teacher who produced great names, such as Heifetz, of course, and Elman, and Zimbalist, and many more. And then he moved to the United States and taught here. But again, I'm not sure that we really should call him the beginning or the basis of the Russian school. It was more of one of directions that the Russian school or violin in Russia took. Some people ask about the bow grip, and there is much controversy on this subject. Controversy as far as I'm concerned. Many people consider this bow grip to be the Russian bow grip. I disagree with this. I grew up in Russia and I didn't see anyone around me, great violinists, holding the bow like that. Yes, it was, again, those who studied with Leopold Auer, some of them did, but nobody I saw. So I would maybe call it Old Russian myself, if the bow grip is concerned. But what I would try to say, that in my personal opinion, it absolutely doesn't matter what label of the school we want to put on this or that player. It's either good player or not so good player. It's either a person who expresses music to the fullest or he or she doesn't. It's either a player that plays with freedom and lack of tension, or a player who is very tense and uncomfortable even to look at. Now again, sometimes people are very tense, uncomfortable to look at, but they play very well and they seem to be fine. Great. So I am all for the music being expressed and the players being able to do it. How we call the school, it's not what I care about. All right. Second question was a question of concerning wrist vibrato. it wasn't actually a question, it was a comment saying, I heard that knocking, the one I described in the wrist vibrato, as a first sort of approach of the movement through the so-called knocking, the knocking movement of the wrist, that's exactly what doesn't work. Well, again, I can rely on my own experience and say that, well, in my case, it does work. And I would dare say that in cases when it didn't work, it's most likely because the teacher who needs to help needs to check, first of all, helping by checking whether the hand of the doer, the student, was sufficiently relaxed. The teacher probably missed the tension, and that's why the knocking didn't work. And I must say also to the defense of the teachers that sometimes it's extremely hard to get to catch that tension, even when we're looking at the student. So I'm teaching vibrato. I usually actually physically put my hand on the wrist of the student, and then I can feel whether certain muscles and certain tendons are working, if they're working too much. And that's what really gives the best result. Another question that I have received several times is the question of how one can study with me. And number one, you could come to the University of North Texas, apply to the university and audition. If you're accepted and you get to my studio, you will be studying with me. Number two, you could come and study with me in summers in the festivals such as Green Mountain Music Festival in Vermont. It's a chamber music festival. Again, you need to look for them on the Google, obviously, and apply before the deadline, which I think is the 1st of March, but you need to check. Next festival that I'm going to teach at is right here, again, at the University of North Texas, and it's called the Summer String Institute of UNT. Again, it's on our website. This is only 1 week or maybe 2 weeks that I will be teaching there. Next possibility would be when I am out in some place where you can be nearby. And that would be Russia. I go to Moscow, I go to St. Petersburg quite often. I go to London, I go to Paris, I go to, of course, New York, here in the United States, to LA, in California, East Coast. I will be going to East Coast. One of the askers actually was posing that question, whether I will be at East Coast. I should be at the East Coast in Massachusetts. And in May, I will be big trip in China. So if you're there, Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou, I will be in those cities. So contact me, ask me about my schedule, and perhaps I will be able to see you there. Yet still there, another possibility is to have a lesson over either Skype or sometimes video on Facebook works better than Skype, one of those. What is not really a possibility for me is to receive videos, which I have received several, and then type my comments to those videos. That is absolutely impossible. I just don't have the time, and I just don't have the typing hands. So in conclusion, I would like to say again, thank you very much for watching my videos, for subscribing, and please subscribe if you haven't yet, and hit that like button, and until new meetings in the cyberspace.